welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports, coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C. And them good old boys down south, I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. You're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful December the 11th, 2020. Going to the Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, it is going better for us down here than what it is for your real buddy Donald Trump up in D.C. He walked into the Supreme Court today dragging a dead cat on a leash. And all the justices say, you can't bring that dead stinky cat up in here. You don't need that or use that in here. So you got to go someplace else and play with it. But I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders. They get to him before the cat dies.
Yeah, they get before the cat dies. It's all fair, Lemon War. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars never stop arriving and done all around the world. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Spotify. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Man, I love pausing. I love pausing the same way the Supreme Court paused on Donald Trump. They said, get out. It's all fair level war. But I will never pause on our Veterans Crisis Hotline. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Well, it should be important to all Americans, Charlton. If you think about Donald Trump, he's going to veto a bill that was passed by the House and the Senate, Charlton, that would give an increase to our military personnel.
Wow.
And that means that our veterans would have gotten an increase in pay also, Charlton. But he's not going to do that. He doesn't give a damn about the military service people, even though he's out there stuffing and raised hundreds of millions of dollars for himself to take care of himself once he's left the office.
Yeah.
But we're losing a couple dozen veterans a day to suicide, a horrific number. That, everybody is encouraged about this COVID-19. But we're losing veterans to COVID-19 also, Charlton. And even after the COVID-19 vaccine comes out, there'll be no vaccine for suicide.
Yep.
The only vaccine for suicide in America is helping each other, Charlton.
Yeah.
We have to find better ways to help the veterans and everyday members of society in America to prevent this suicide to keep from escalating, Charlton. I know people are going through troubled times and they're worried about their own.
Yep.
But our veterans gave us the ability to worry about our own. Let's help them out.
Big C, very well said. We'll do our best. 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. Or you can text 838-255. That's 838-255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. And you can get our veterans some help. Really appreciate giving out that number. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley, Home's weekly TV on Dish TV, DirecTV, AT&T Uverse, TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid, as well as the home run king, Barry Bonds. Our goal is simple: recruit 10,000 real estate agents and brokers all over this great country, putting people back to work just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, and sports teams are doing it too. Watch TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. If you're looking for opportunities in real estate, go to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can definitely get some help. Also, I want to say all over the world, you don't have to wait for a Santa Claus. Just pick up your cell phone and say, ho, 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 play Big C Sports Podcast. You will see all of our apps pop up, and you can follow Big C's thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And also, I want to say thank you to Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I'll introduce Big C, and we'll have a great time going into the world of sports. Big C, before we get into Big C's picks, you and I are not dumb guys. We don't always agree. I think red wine is better. You think homemade shine is better. It's all fair in love and war. But I think for a lot of the people in this great country, black Americans especially, Big C News has the U.S. Supreme Court. They rejected the Trump administration's attempt to get Texas to overthrow votes in different states. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, they never had standing. It was a laughable suit that was filed with the Supreme Court, and they were never going to let it get through the door.
Yeah, they never let it get through the door. And so I just want that to be known, because a lot of times our brethren have a muzzle on them, and they can't talk about anything other than who won the game. So it's just great to me to see that, even though the Supreme Court is stacked conservatively, at least they had I want to say the decency to honor the Constitution in the way that it should. Big C, I want to get into what happened last night in some NFL football, and I was wrong. I should never bet against the Ram, if that makes sense to you, Big C. The Patriots and Bill Belichick, that Jedi Knight, he got beaten by a younger man that's also leading the LA Rams. It was a 24-3 beatdown at new SoFi Center in Los Angeles, and I don't think Jedi Knight Bill Belichick saw it coming. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, no, they saw it coming, Charlton. I mean, when you have a team that's totally inept throwing the football in the NFL, you can run the ball a couple games against weaker teams. But when you come up against a better opponent, Charlton, that has a stalwart on defense, they'll shut down that run eventually. And when you don't have the passing attack in place and your quarterback has shown the inability to throw the ball, you're not going to survive in the NFL.
Yeah, it was a really impressive showing by the Rams. And the Rams are who we thought they were, for some people anyway. Rookie Cam Akers running wild for the Rams, and his defensive teammates thoroughly stifled the Patriots, Big C. These Rams even looked good enough, in my opinion, to contend for a chance at some actual Super Bowl redemption, if it makes sense to you. Akers rushed 171 yards in a breakout performance. Kenny Young was doing his thing, returned an interception, 79 yards for a touchdown, and the Rams clinched their fourth straight winning season, a 24-3 beatdown over the New England Patriots on Thursday night. Jared Goff rushed for a touchdown, threw a touchdown pass to Cooper Kupp as the NFC West leading Rams. They're 9-4, Big C. They rolled to a one-sided victory. New England managed only 220 total yards in just 62 in the second half. Big C, your thoughts?
I mean, you can't beat a Pop Warner team, Charlton, amassing that type of yards.
Right.
When you look at the New England Patriots, you have to wonder what's wrong with this team. I know what's wrong with Cam. Cam just doesn't have the enthusiasm about playing football. That's his problem. He's more concerned about being a model than he is a pro athlete. And at some point at the end of this season, Charlton, he's going to have to make a decision what he wants to make out of the rest of his potential NFL career.
Yeah, it's all fair in love and war. Just a great game by the LA Rams and a scheme that has that team that sometimes plays like Jekyll and Hyde. They played great last night, defending the West Coast. Big C, the West Coast represented, and it's all fair in love and war. I want to get into Big C's thoughts on NFL Week 15. I'm telling you, there's a lot of good things that are happening. You have the Los Angeles Chargers. They're at the Las Vegas Raiders for the first time in the history of these two great franchises, Big C. It's a game time that kicks off at 8:20 p.m. East Coast time on the NFL Network and Amazon. And you have the Raiders are a 3.5-point favorite. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, this is a battle for the bottom of the NFC West, and I don't think that the Chargers are in the mood to get out of it right now. And so the Raiders, I mean, they saw that miraculous win that they had last week coming from behind against the Jets with no time left on the clock. But the Chargers were just thoroughly destroyed. I think this is a demoralized team. They're just trying to play out the string and get out of the season. The Raiders are hopefully trying to get a wild card berth.
Yes, for the Raiders, they have a lot to play for despite some recent struggles. John Gruden has a squad at 7-5, clearly in playoff contention. Quarterback Derek Carr, he's put up 22 touchdowns, only 5 interceptions. He'll be taking on a Chargers defense that is yielding nearly 29 points a game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, that defense has yielded a lot, but that offensive productivity with the Chargers has really fallen off of the scale. I mean, the only thing these two teams have in common is that they both have new stadiums, is that the Raiders, the light is shining a little brighter.
Yeah, shining a little bit brighter. Wish them all fair and love and war. Also a big game, we have the Buffalo Bills at the Denver Broncos. That game is a 4:30 p.m. kickoff East Coast time on the NFL Network. The Buffalo Bills are a 5.5-point favorite up at Mile High. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this will be a no contest. When we look at the performance that Josh Allen hung out there on the San Francisco 49ers last week, Charlton, and he loves playing against West Coast teams, he's going to hang that same type of performance against the Denver Broncos. You look at the Denver Broncos with their inconsistency at quarterback all year long versus where the Bills have been. Josh Allen has picked up where he was at the first 4 games of the season. He's found his groove again at quarterback with the Buffalo Bills. That receiving core is outstanding. You remember last week when Beasley and Diggs, had 229 combined yards between the two of them and a couple touchdowns. Josh Allen is strong with his legs and his arms. This is the first time that Denver's going to see anybody play like him since John Elway. And that running attack, the Denver Broncos can't figure out who they want to dominate it. I think they're a better team with Phillip Lindsay running the ball, but they paid Josh Gordon all the money in the offseason, and I don't see Drew Lock having a big game.
Yeah, very well said, Big C. Allen, that good old boy from Fireball, California. There's no place like home when he comes to the West Coast. 32 touchdowns, only 8 interceptions in 12 games this season, and the Broncos signal callers have tallied just 30 touchdowns and 31 interceptions in 28 games since the start of the 2019 campaign. Do the math. Buffalo is 9-3, and they might eat some Broncos this weekend. Big C, another game that could be a big game if the Panthers go in overlooking people. You have the Carolina Panthers. They're at the Green Bay Packers. That game is set for 8:30 p.m. East Coast time. It's on the NFL Network, and the Packers are favored by 7.5. Big C, your thoughts?
If the Panthers go in and sneak up on the Packers and people say, see, we told you that Aaron Rodgers should have gotten a receiver in the draft. We told you that he needed some more offensive help. But the last time I looked and saw the Green Bay Packers playing, I saw Devontae Adams, wide receiver. Got to be one of the top 3 or 5 receivers in the league, Charlton. I saw Jamal Adams at running back. Got to be in the top 5 running backs in the league. I saw Aaron Rodgers, one of the top 2 quarterbacks in the league. That offensive line has been playing outstanding football, protecting for the run and the pass. And on the flip side, the defense of the Green Bay Packers has gotten better. They've been stopping the run of opponents, and I haven't seen a quarterback in some time have some success against them. Yes, Teddy Bridgewater's had a roller coaster season. The running game has been inconsistent there in Carolina. The defense has some shining points with a lot of young rookies. But this game is all about Green Bay dominating by at least 10 points.
Yeah, and they're doing their thing, Big C. Aaron Rodgers, touchdown! Aaron Rodgers, thus far this season, nothing short of excellent, Big C. He made history last week. He became the first quarterback to throw for 35 or more touchdown passes in 5 different seasons. Rodgers tossed 36 scores compared to 4 interceptions en route to leading Green Bay. 9-3 on the season, averaging 32 points per game. And them good old boys at Lambeau Field, they definitely look like they're ready to knock on the door of at least an NFC Championship game. There's a big game coming up, and I don't know who is bigger for them. It's probably bigger for Washington than it is Seattle. You have the Seattle Seahawks. They're at the Washington football team. This game this weekend is a 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on Fox Sports. And the Seahawks travel across the country where they tend to play better away from home, and they're getting a 3.5-point favorite. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is actually a desperation game for the Seahawks. They want to stay in contact with the Los Angeles Rams, who now have a 1.5 game lead on them in the NFC West. And we saw last week how paltry the Seahawks defense was. They couldn't have stopped a nosebleed or caught a fish that was laying on the ground. That's how bad they played defensively. Russell Wilson was scrambling for his life all last week against the New York Giants defense. Their pass rush. Think about this, the New York Giants pass rush. The Washington football clubs have 4 number 1 draft picks on the defensive line at all times in the game. It will be a different contest. They will get after Russell Wilson all day long. And if the Seahawks can't muster up a pass rush against Alex Smith, he will pick on apart like pulling bones out of a fish. And the Washington football club will walk away with a victory at home against the Seahawks.
Yeah, you definitely want to pull bones out of a fish, especially when you're chewing it on one bite's all fair and love and war. This Washington football team, they knocked off the Pittsburgh Steelers, made them no longer undefeated. Now, Washington, Big C, they've won 3 consecutive games. They've given up 42 total points during that span. And like you were saying about their defense, this team has registered 36 sacks. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, they're outstanding defensively. They've gotten better and better every week. And you got to look at it from this perspective, Charlton. If you're on the Washington football team, And if you're a player walking out there saying, I'm not feeling good, I'm not up 100% today, or I got a little nick on me, you got to turn your head and look at and find Alex Smith. And say, I got a guy out there playing a football game on one leg. What the hell excuse do I have to complain about and I can't give 100%?
Yeah, that's very well said. And Russell Houdini, touchdown Wilson, he's been sacked 40 times this season. That's too much. 40 times. It's all fair in Leavenworth. Another big game, Big C, in the AFC South. The Houston Texans at the Indianapolis Colts. It's a 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. And the Colts are a 6.5-point favorite, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I guess there was a movie called A River Runs Through It. That's what Phillip Rivers is doing right now.
Very good.
He's exploring in Indianapolis. So this game will be a one-sided battle. When you think about the Houston Texans, they don't have any defense.
Yeah.
Their defense is equal to the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, it's all fair.
Deshaun Watson can do all that he can to put productivity on the field and points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
They've also lost two of their receivers and their top running backs, also, so he's going to be down a few weapons.
Yeah.
The Indianapolis Colts are getting healthy. Phillip Rivers is just like Alex Smith. Regardless of how bad I'm hurt, I'm going to play.
Yeah.
And the Indianapolis Colts will run all over the Houston Texans.
Yeah, I like the river runs through it, but when you get the fish in that river running through it, pull the bones out, it's all fair. In Leavenworth, looking for a good game. The Tennessee Titans are doing something also in that same division. We'll talk about them a little bit later. But I want to get to a game that I think is so important. When you think about it, the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings, these two franchises are two of the greatest franchises in the history of the NFL. And it seems like every year they come into the season with high expectations, but it doesn't turn out that way. This game is a 1 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time on Fox Sports. And the Bears going to the Vikings. The Vikings are a 6-point favorite, and I don't know if I trust them, but they're still a favorite. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, your cousin keeps trying not to screw it up in Minnesota. You think about coming into this season. Dalvin Cook, who's the top player on the Minnesota Vikings, only had one game in his career where he carried the ball more than 30 times.
Yep.
He's already done that 4 times this year. And he's done it in the last 3 games that he's carried the ball over 30 times.
Yeah.
They got the 1 point last week in the game. He had 8 consecutive runs in overtime because your cousin was trying not to screw it up. You got to ask yourself, is Dalvin Cook wearing down any? Is he going to be a little tired of coming into this game against that Chicago defense, who we know they can lay the wood on opposing running back?
Yeah.
And so that's going to be the question mark. Will Dalvin Cook be too tired to carry the payload for over 100 yards against this great Bears defense and give Mr. Trubisky an opportunity to beat the Minnesota Vikings?
Yeah, it's always something that you got to pay attention to. It's about turnovers and who has confidence. Jacksonville Jaguars at the Baltimore Ravens. A lot of these teams I kind of feel bad for because they've been playing in these abbreviated seasons. Games that should have been on Thursday are being played on Tuesday. And I'm sure you don't get that same 6-day rest that most NFL teams need. But we have a 1 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. And the Ravens were doing their thing last week. They're actually favored by 11, and they should cover it. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, the last time that they were down in Florida playing a football game, I believe the Ravens hung 51 points on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And this team has got its ground and pound back. They've gotten physical once again. And I think coming down into that warm weather down there in Jacksonville is going to be a relief from them getting out of Baltimore. And they're going to start cooking up and down the field on some Jaguar chalk. And the Jaguars have no chance. I mean, this is the team that's relying on Robinson, their rookie running back. They're on their 3rd quarterback of the season, maybe their 4th quarterback of the season by the time the game starts. But Baltimore will thoroughly trounce the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, Baltimore has been playing better. It's amazing. Baltimore able to get back on track with their win over Dallas, and they were dealing with the COVID-19, and then they had a lot of players just not being very healthy, and they had to go out and play anyway because the NFL will not cancel games. They will only move them back. Jacksonville has lost 11 consecutive games, and this is a team, they would look so much better if they were to move to the Bay Area. If that makes sense to you, Oakland's not going to pay for anybody to come out to the Bay Area. They still owed money by the Raiders. Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a big game in the NFC South. They're at the Atlanta Falcons, Big C. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff, East Coast time, and when you think about this game, it'll be on Fox. The Buccaneers are only favored by 1.5, and I don't know if they can get it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, they're going to have to put some offensive productivity up, Charlton, if they expect to beat the Falcons. I mean, the Falcons at any point can have a red-hot offense, but they're going to be without Julio Jones, which may slow them down a little bit.
Yeah.
And Tampa has not played in a while. But Tom Brady has been turnover-prone the last 3 games that he has played, which has cost Tampa victories in 2 of those games, Charlton. So this will come down to who can have some better defensive performance. I mean, Tampa Bay's defense has been on the slide a little bit this year. They've dropped from where they were ending the season and beginning the season this year.
Yep.
So can they come up with the big performances? We saw Atlanta do that last week. And so this is going to come down to who can create the most turnovers defensively.
Big C, Tampa Bay, they're 7-5. They're going to try to battle for one of the final playoff spots in the NFC. As you mentioned, Tom Brady, he struggled big time under center. Meanwhile, the Falcons are 4-3 since letting go of Quinn. And the moral of the story is don't be surprised if Matt Ryan and crew can pull the upset. But I want to ask you your thoughts. Down by 4, 28-24, 2 minutes left. Which quarterback do you trust more to drive his team for the winning score, Big C? Your thoughts?
I don't trust either one of those quarterbacks, Charlton. They've both
Yeah.
been turnover prone. They've both been skittish. They're old. Either one of them are mobile.
Yep.
And so both of them will make an error. We've seen that happen with both of these teams where the quarterback has turned over the ball in those 2-minute drives.
Yeah, they've both done that. And then people should not criticize Arians for seeing what we see when Brady's making mistakes. You need someone to be honest with you if you're going to do better. It's all fair and love and war. Here's another game, not a big game, but I remember back in 1994, and this game decided who went to the Super Bowl. I'll never forget Deion Sanders was holding Michael Irvin by the arm, and they let it go, and the 49ers went on to win that game and went to their last Super Bowl when they were down there with Steve Young at the time. Not their last Super Bowl, but the second to the last Super Bowl at Candlestick Park before Colin Kaepernick took them. We have a big game, Big C. The 49ers at the Cowboys. It's a game that's going to happen this weekend, 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time. It's on Fox Sports, and the 49ers are traveling, but they're only favored by 2.5, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, see, the Cowboys have already lost this game, Charles, because the NFL took this game off of Sunday night and put it on Sunday afternoon. They buried it in the middle of the schedule.
Yeah.
Where, Dallas was a primetime game, and now you're just a left-around game. And so I don't know where the Cowboys are emotionally from that perspective, is that the NFL has no faith in them to put on a great show. They're playing against the 49ers. Nick Mullins is a doable quarterback against the Dallas Cowboys. And their running game, if they have any inkling of what they had last year, they'll run all over the Dallas Cowboys. The Baltimore Ravens proved last week that the Cowboys couldn't stop a nosebleed even if they had a bale of cotton. So this is a situation where the Dallas Cowboys will take another hit.
Yeah, Big Z, I hope you're not having nosebleeds and eating catfish with bones on them. It's all fair and love and war. Is somebody get rid of that cat that Donald Trump took to the Supreme Court? They said, get it out of here. It's all fair and love and war. I remember there was a time when the Cowboys had Coach Jimmy Johnson, and Jerry Jones didn't like him because he kept winning Super Bowls. Jerry Jones did not like that, Big C. And I remember they were playing the 49ers, and Jimmy Johnson said, we're going to pound them, and we're going to go to the Super Bowl. And they won that game, and they went to the Super Bowl. It's been a long time since the Cowboys had a coach that talked with such brazenness, Big C. It's all fair and love and war. Detroit Lions at the Tennessee Titans. I got to find if Henry can get his groove back. It's a 1 o'clock p.m. kickoff, East Coast time, on Fox Sports. And the Titans are favored by 8.5, but they got to start early, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, this is one of those games where when your little brother plays against the big brother in the backyard, and the big brother has a tendency to slap him around just a little bit. This is what's going to happen with the Tennessee Titans beating up on the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions know that this season is over. Tennessee Titans need to get back in the playoffs. People will look at that loss last week against the Cleveland Browns saying they got blown out. Cleveland got up early in that game.
Yeah, they got up early.
And you got to realize it ended up being a 5-point ball game at the end. The Tennessee Titans have a complete ball club.
Yeah.
Their only weakness on that team, Charlton, is their run defense. And we know the Detroit Lions don't have a great running game. So if they get them down by anything, now the Detroit Lions are forced to try to pass the ball.
Yeah.
Game over.
Yeah, game over. But I do want to ask you this, Big C, because this Tennessee team was rolling. They lost 4 of 7, and it's coming off a Week 13 outing that saw this team's defense yield 38 first-half points to the Cleveland Browns. That being said, Tennessee is giving up a whopping 27 points per game. Even then, they should get on track this week. Big C, your thoughts?
Oh, they're going to get on track this week. They were on track. I mean, look at what they did in the second half against the Cleveland Browns last week.
Yeah.
They ran the Cleveland Browns into the ground last week, Charlton. They dominated. It was a half of 2 footballs. It's just that Cleveland outscored them in the first half.
Yeah.
They're not going to give the Detroit Lions that same opportunity to outscore them in the first half. They're not going to have those wide-open receivers running down the field against this Tennessee defense this week, Charlton.
Yeah, it should be a game. Give the ball to Henry. Henry running left. Henry running right. Touchdown, Henry. You should hear that, and Tennessee to be fine. Philadelphia Eagles, they have so much to be thankful for, and I'm looking for your thoughts on Philadelphia, what they're doing, and obviously they have to get out of I believe they're not going to get out of the contract with Carson Wentz, but obviously they have a big game coming up, and they're going to deal with Jalen Hurts. But you have the Eagles and Cardinals, and the Cardinals are a 6.5-point spread, Big C, and this game is going to be 4:05 p.m. East Coast time on Fox Sports. I mean, the NFL is moving teams all around. Give me your feelings. The Eagles just recently benched Carson Wentz, maybe 2 weeks too late, for Jalen Hurts after dropping 4 consecutive games, and it's a team that still has a chance to win the NFC East. Big C, your thoughts?
They're right there in the NFC East, but I'm still not so confident about Jalen Hurts coming into this game and starting, Charlton. When you're throwing into the mix against a team that knows that they got red deep in front of them, Charlton, and they've seen quarterbacks like him, he's not bringing anything new to the plate. When you have Kyler Murray on the practice field every day, Charlton, that you got to face, you're not going to bring anything new to the plate. I don't know if his throwing ability right now in the NFL. I see a lot of blitz-heavy package coming at him, Charlton, trying to get him off his throwing spot, and that's what I see him facing. And he's going to be under harassment all day long.
Yeah, he will be. Kyler Murray, both quarterbacks are kind of banged up. It's amazing that Kyler Murray and also Wentz played at one time for Oklahoma. And so not Wentz, but Kyler Murray and also Hurts played at Oklahoma. And then, of course, Hurts came over from Alabama. So I look forward to seeing this game. I just don't want to see quarterbacks getting banged up when you don't have a good offensive line, even though if you're going to play in the NFL, you're going to have to play with some pain. But see, we have the New York Jets and a crazy schedule coming up. I don't know if this game is still going to be on this weekend, but the New York Jets at the Los Angeles Rams that just had a game this week, just yesterday. So I don't know how they're going to pull this off. It's scheduled in the books for 4:05 p.m. East Coast time on CBS Sports. Who knows when they're going to play? They may have a game 7 days a week now, but the Rams are favored by 13.5 over the Jets.
Well, Charlton, if this game takes place, they'll most likely move this game to Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah.
It won't be played on Sunday, but even if whenever it gets played, the Jets are just getting a paycheck.
Big C, I remember it used to tell me it would take 5 days to heal up from a football game. And we know that teams are playing on Sunday. They'll play them on Thursday, especially when you got to travel. It's just not fair. But at some point in time, you got so many players that are facing injuries, and they're just pushing these games through anyway. But I just hope players stay healthy through all of it as much as possible. We have the Kansas City Chiefs at the New Orleans Saints, and that's a big game coming up, Big C. It's a 4:05 actually a 4:25 p.m. kickoff, East Coast time on CBS Sports. And the Chiefs are favored by 3, and all they got to do is not let Taysom Hill rush for 5 touchdowns. Big C, your thoughts?
Taysom Hill, he'll do what he has to do, Charlton. But, matching him against Patrick Mahomes, that's a night and day story. I mean, the Chiefs' defense gets better as the year goes on. I know the Saints have the number 1 defense in the NFC, but they don't face Patrick Mahomes each week. This is a guy who'll go out and get you 400 yards in the air, 3 to 4 touchdowns, Charlton. The running game is serviceable in Kansas City, and so that's a threat both sides. Travis Kelce is on the verge of making history in the NFL. Tyreek Hill, you can't cover him coming off a game where he had over 200 yards receiving.
Yeah.
The Kansas City Chiefs will win this game.
Yeah, they find a way to win games. The Chiefs have only lost one time in the last one calendar year, and they lost that game to the Raiders. So I know they're going to figure out how to get things going. We have a Sunday night, Week 15, Sunday Night Football, Cleveland Browns at the upstart New York Giants. I'm telling you, this Giants defense is no joke based on what they did to Seattle. You have the Cleveland Browns. It's an 8:20 p.m. kickoff East Coast time on NBC Sports. And the Browns are getting 3. They're favored by 3.5 over a defense that's been coming on strong lately, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, you got to realize shutting down the Seattle's offense is no big feat by any defensive line. They can't block themselves, Charlton, in practice. The Cleveland Browns will dominate the New York Giants. I mean, Daniel Jones, I don't think he'll be playing quarterback this week. He still has that hamstring problem. Colt McCoy played against a defense who could not get after him last week. They had a solid running game with the Giants, and that was the Achilles heel, for the Seattle Seahawks. But the running game is what Cleveland specializes in.
Yeah.
If you keep handing the ball off to Hunt and Chubb, you don't have a problem when you're in Cleveland. Yes, their receiving core can be outstanding, but that comes because they've dominated the game on the game on the ground already.
Yeah.
And that defensive front for Cleveland can really get after you. So don't expect to see the Giants running for 150 yards against this Cleveland Browns defense. They may say around 100, but expect the Browns to get at least 170 on the ground and just dominate the game.
Yeah, that's a lot of domination. There's a lot of NFL football that's up in the air. Who knows if it's going to happen? The Steelers at the Bengals, and that game is scheduled. Don't know about how all these things are going to happen with all the injuries and if anyone's going to show up with the COVID again. We just don't know. But I look at an 8:15 p.m. kickoff East Coast time with CBS Sports, and the Steelers are 11.5-point favorite, Big C. They should get it, Big C. Your thoughts?
They're playing nobody. Even though they're divisional rivals, Charlton, this is always a bitterly fought game. Regardless of the record, you can toss it out. This is a game about physicality, just like when the Steelers and the Ravens play. It's a game about physicality, and that's where the Bengals will come from. They won't back down, even though the Steelers have the better team. The Bengals will not back down. They will make this a hard-fought contest. The Steelers will come out victorious in the end, but they will be licking their wounds also.
Yeah, they are licking their wounds, and I know everybody has their own thoughts on how things will get put together. And then the final thoughts, Big C. We just saw what happened, and I guess this game will probably get pushed back some. You have the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins. I don't know how it's going to happen. It's scheduled 1 o'clock p.m. East Coast time, CBS Sports. I'm sure they're going to move that game back. Dolphins are favored by 2.5 points. Big C, your thoughts?
So those games will be moved back, Charlton. The two teams that played last night, those games get moved back. The NFL is not going to put the body through that. You have so many hours that you have between games, at least 4 days before you can play a game, and that's in the bylaws, and the players would have to sign off a waiver to go in and play those games. But the Dolphins will win this game handily, Charlton, against the Patriots. The Dolphins can throw the ball, and the Patriots cannot.
Yeah, the Dolphins can, the Patriots cannot. We're going to take what's called the Big C pause, also known as what the Supreme Court said to Donald Trump. Stop it! Just stop it. It's all fair in level war. You ever tell a kid to stop it, Big C? It's all fair. We're going to take the Big C pause. We'll be right back in just a moment. All right, we are back from the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. There's so many apps, and I really do appreciate the way things are going with Big C Sports. I also want to thank Comcast Spotlight for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. Just like God said, let there be light. Open your cell phones and say, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear, welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing from 3,000 miles away, and I really do appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. I want to touch on some things with college football, Big C. Won't lie to you and say that Week 15 might have a major impact on college football playoff picture. Think about this. Only 2 of the top 8 teams, #1 Alabama and #6 Florida, are playing. They both are expected to beat their sub-500 opponents by many, many points. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, these teams right now, Charlton, are lining up for the SEC playoff game next week. I believe it's in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Alabama wants to keep their perfect, unblemished record going. They'll hang 60 points on anybody. Then Florida has a game against a nobody also, Charlton. So they're trying to keep Kyle Trask's arm healthy, get him another 4 touchdown passes, and sit him down.
Yeah, and they'll probably do that too. I know everyone's looking forward to the game. I believe it's going to be in Atlanta, the SEC championship game with Alabama and Florida. So both teams get to decide who's going to represent the SEC in the championship game. Big C, number 17, North Carolina, at number 10, Miami. Who you got, Big C? This should be an excellent high-scoring affair between the best ACC teams, not being Clemson or Notre Dame. Big C, your thoughts?
You think about how great a season that Miami has had thus far, Charlton, being 9-1. And nobody's talking about them in the ACC. They have the same record that Clemson has.
Yeah.
Notre Dame has one win more than both of those teams, Charlton.
Yep.
But Miami cannot even get a peek. North Carolina came into the season with a lot of high praise, went 5-0 on the season before having a couple of hiccups. Sam Harrell, outstanding sophomore quarterback. this will be a shootout between King and Harrell. I think King gets the advantage because he has more mobility than Harrell,
Yeah.
and his legs will make the difference in the game for Miami.
You think about when Miami had Jimmy Johnson, Dennis Erickson, Schellenberger back there coaching. There was no way North Carolina could have played with Miami, especially when they had that 56-game win streak at the old Orange Bowl. But this is the new kind of Miami. They're up in the suburbs now. They're not down in the heart of Miami. Big C, Iowa or Wisconsin win a game this year? The Heartland Trophy is defense more of your speed. There's a good one between Wisconsin and Iowa kicking off at the same time. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, and here's Wisconsin. Everybody thought would battle for the Big Ten title, Charlton. They've suffered 2 losses. And they've also lost 4 games to COVID-19. So it's been a struggle for this team all year long.
Yeah.
Iowa is one of those teams that will sneak up on you, Charlton. They will be down, but if you don't smash them like the dead cat that Donald Trump is carrying around, they'll sneak back up on you.
Big C, I bet his cat is orange. He's always carrying around that orange hat on his head. It's all fair and love and war. The Supreme Court said, get out. It's amazing when white men are told get out by the Supreme Court. It's all fair and love and war. There are even a couple of Pac-12 teams in Pac-12 games that might be worth your time watching if you're from the South, but everybody on the West Coast is interested. Undefeated USC, undefeated Colorado, both facing decent competition this week. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. And what time those games come on? It's midnight on the East Coast. I mean, we'll have to pay it.
Midnight.
But when you look at USC and them having an opportunity to have that inner-city rival game that used to be so big for years against UCLA, Charlton.
Yeah.
UCLA has lost a couple tight games this year. They've gone through a couple of quarterbacks. Kevin Slovis has played well for USC, has an outstanding young receiving corps. USC should win this game, but when it comes to these rivalry games, you never know what may be happening. You saw what happened with Oregon and Oregon State.
Yeah, and Cal and Stanford. You know, the Pac-12 should stop doing Pac-12 after dark. That's just dumb. Pac-12 after dark, kids want to be out partying after dark. They don't want to be kicking off of football games, all fair and love and war, while USC and UCLA game could be great. The Trojans 4-0. They're clicking in every way, shape, and form against Washington State last Sunday. It's tough to bet against them, no matter the rivalry, Big C. You think about this. The Trojans' passing game looks great. The defense is playing fast and aggressive. They'll do just enough against the UCLA Bruins. And you still have that good old boy that's coaching UCLA back into prominence. I mean, Coach Kelly, he's doing his thing. But I think Helton gets this job done, hopefully, for the Trojans. Also, the Colorado Buffaloes, they're 4-0. On the other hand, will lose probably. It's a great story, though a strong start for Coach Carl DeRoe's team. Tailback Jarek Broussard is a budding superstar. They don't have enough offensive balance to top Utah, in my opinion. Cal Whittingham's team is still trying to find itself this year, but it's got enough pieces coming together for a young team to win. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, when you think about where Colorado is, I mean, they've been winning with smoke and mirrors. Carl Durrell came in last minute, has his team at 4-0. But you look at Utah on the flip side. This was a team that was playing in the Pac-12 championship game last year, Charlton.
Yeah.
And people thought that they had enough personnel to come back and get to that same point again this year. It's been a struggle for them. Colorado is hoping to keep their winning streak alive. First time that they've won 5 in a row in over 2 decades, Charlton.
Yeah, McCartney had recruited a lot of kids out of California when they won their national championship back in the early 90s. I want to ask you, who wins the Commander-in-Chief's trophy? And I'm sure Donald Trump will be uninvited to come to that game, Big C, like many of our national presidents have gone there, Big C. Thanks to a 40-7 win over Navy in October, Air Force has the early lead in the annual race. Still, Navy could retain the Commander-in-Chief's trophy with a victory on Saturday. I'm not expecting much from an offense that's mustered just 3.7 yards per carry. Army is 7-2 on the season. They have a superior record. The Black Knights, Big C, which makes Donald Trump want to throw up that a military school is called the Black Knights. He wants to have the name changed to the White Knights, if that makes sense to you, Big C. They're averaging nearly 300 rushing yards per game and have only allowed 5 rushing touchdowns in 9 games, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, the Black Knights are putting the black belt on defense, Charlton. They have been whipping up on their opponents.
Yeah.
Army, you know, it's amazing every year when you take these midshipmen athletes, Charlton, who
Yeah.
are dedicated to service in the military and no career in professional sports, how well they play. But this shows how well they are mentally tuned, Charlton, when it comes to discipline.
Yeah.
Is that they come out and execute week in and week out.
Yeah.
This is the first time since World War II, Charlton, that the game will be played on the Academy's campus
Yeah.
and not in Philadelphia. And so this has some historic significance also. Unfortunately, your buddy Donald Trump will show up at the game. This will be one of the places that he can go to the White House and not get booed because the respect from the military men, even though he will veto them getting a raise in the future.
That's funny. I do want to just take a pause and say I love how you introduced the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because a lot of the people who defend this country and make it free for us to vote and have free and fair elections, a lot of these kids go to the military academies. And I know they're more than just football players, and I love especially that we honor our military every time we do a show, and I hope that whoever wins the Commander-in-Chief Trophy will do it with a lot of pride, and they're not losers, as some people say they are. Big C, which game between undefeated teams will be most entertaining? The matchup between 6-1 Nevada and 5-0 San Jose State might be the most relevant, with the winner likely moving into the Associated Press top 25 and playing for a Mountain West title. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, this is interesting, Charlton, when you talk about San Jose State having the best record of any team on the West Coast, being undefeated. And I believe this is the first time since, World War II that they've been undefeated at this point of the season.
In some time, yeah.
A great turnaround and inspirational story in that program. They've been forced to leave their home field and go down and play in Las Vegas. I'm surprised that they didn't play the game at Nevada's home stadium, Charlton, instead of going all the way down to Vegas. But I guess they wanted to make it a neutral site for them in this situation. But this is great representation for the West Coast. The number of significant games that are being played out there this week. You have Colorado undefeated, you have USC undefeated, and you have San Jose State undefeated.
Yeah, it's all fair and level war. Looking forward to it. Last year Nevada, they're not ranked right now, but Nevada actually beat Purdue out of the Big Ten, and San Jose State actually beat Arkansas out of the SEC. These two teams combined, they are 11-1. And not ranked, but one of them will be ranked after this week. Is all fair and level war. However, in terms of sheer entertainment value, Big C, give me Houston at Memphis. Each squad is both amassing, think about this, at least 425 yards and 30 points a game, even with Memphis stumbling a bit later with I think it was just 31 points combined in its last two games. These two teams can light up the scoreboards, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, I mean, you think about this, the game between the Houston Cougars and the Memphis Tigers, Charlton, both of these teams have had firepower over the years.
Yeah.
They've been known for high-potency offense. And when they get out there, there was a game earlier in the year, I believe, where Memphis beat, Central Florida like 51-48.
Yeah.
So an outstanding offensive team that can put up some points on the scoreboard. And Dana Holgorsen has gotten his offense implemented there in Houston, and those players now understand how to run that gun offense that he runs after he left West Virginia. So this should be a shootout. I like Houston in this game.
Yeah, Houston's been doing their thing. Remind me of when they were playing. They played Miami back in the day, and they got beat 40-7. But they were a team that threw the ball very well. Big C, another game in lieu of one of the good games. I'm most intrigued to see what happens in a very bad game. Now, I don't want you to throw up, Big C, like that orange cat that Donald Trump is throwing up with. Think about this. Tennessee is 2-6. Vanderbilt is 0-8 for the for the mighty SEC. Big C, your thoughts?
And you think about, Tennessee signed their head coach Jeremy Pruitt to a 4-year extension last offseason. Just Tennessee won 8 games, Charlton.
Yeah.
And now they're trying to figure out ways to get out of this contract that they have with him.
Yeah.
Vanderbilt already fired Derek Mason, their head coach. They have one of the feel-good stories in college football, though, Charlton, with the female kicker that made NCAA history playing in 2 consecutive games for a male football team. So this is going to be intriguing, but I think that Vanderbilt goes 0-9 and Tennessee gets their 3rd win on the season.
Ironically, Mason gets fired from the SEC for graduating his players. But, they didn't win enough football games. So graduation, great. We're here to graduate our students. But if you don't win enough football, they fire you. Who wins by more, Alabama at Arkansas or Buffalo versus Akron? Arkansas had a promising start, Big C, but the past month hasn't been as kind to the Razorbacks. 3 straight losses. They've given up 1,665 yards, 140 points. Alabama should be headed for another 50-point game before halftime, if that makes sense to you.
I mean, this is one of those games where you got 2 Heisman candidates for Alabama that will be patting their stats.
Yeah.
Devontae Smith, who was the best player on their team, wide receiver, leading the country with 80 receptions for close to 1,400 yards and I believe 16 touchdowns.
He's good.
But then you got Mac Jones at quarterback, who is leading the country in efficiency, touchdown to interception ratio. He's right there. Arkansas is having a prayer.
And speaking of the Razorbacks, the winner of this game gets the Big C burger. It is a tasty burger, and it comes with exotic meats, if that makes sense to you. And it tastes great with the Budweiser Zero. It has 0% alcohol, and it goes great with the Big C burger. Still, probably that won't be as bad as Akron's loss to Buffalo Big C. On the bright side, the Zips finally won. They snapped a 21-game losing streak with a beat down of Bowling Green last week. Ultimately, think about this. Nevertheless, this defense has otherwise allowed 47 points a game. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about it. You win for the first time in 21 outings, and we know what college kids like to do, Charlton, after winning a game. They go out and throw back a few glasses of bottled water.
Bottled water.
I hope they're not overhydrated when they come to the game and not too weighed down against Buffalo, who has the top running back in the country. And then they're able to keep them under that 47 at halftime.
Yeah, they're able to do that at halftime. I love the world of college football, but I know, and I'm so happy with what the Supreme Court did today to kick Donald Trump's butt out of the courts with his friends. But I want to ask you something, too, because I know you and I go back and forth about what's going on with the Pac-12 and the SEC. But would you believe, and we talk about who's going to play who in college football playoffs, but in December of 2020, the same month that the Supreme Court told Donald Trump to shut up and to quit this garbage of filing lawsuits, he's already fleeced his supporters for enough money to do whatever he needs to do after he gets out of office. Over $200 million for a guy who's thrown out of court. Big C, in December 2020, that's right now, college football in the SEC, head coaches, if you're black, you're not welcome. Think about that, Big C. They have more black athletes in the SEC than probably any college, especially for the Power 5 teams. And when you think about it, the Pac-12 has 5 black head coaches. The SEC has 0. The Big 12 has 0 black head coaches. And the ACC has 1. And Vanderbilt just fired their only black head coach. And the Big 10, I think, has 3, but they may have 4. I got to make sure of that. The conference with the most black head coaches that the national media tends to discriminate against happens to be the Black 12. Why is there such a lack of black coaches, even given the chance to compete for a coaching spot in the SEC and the ACC? Big C, your thoughts?
You have to understand, Charlton, just because they've let athletes on the field does not mean that they want somebody controlling the situation sitting in an executive office. They want somebody who looks like them when they're paying out all that money. There's only been 2 black head coaches in the SEC that I can recall, Charlton. Yet there's been many qualified candidates, but they don't get the job.
Yeah.
It's like going to the Masters in golf. There's no one who's African American who is a member of the Masters Augusta Golf Club.
Yeah.
And that's how the SEC is, Charlton. You look at the geographics of that conference, and that's how it's made up. It still has that good old boy mentality, regardless how people advance.
Yeah, and I think the ACC, they had a commercial about diversity and how let's end racism. They have one black head coach. He's up at Syracuse, which, by the way, is a media school, and they get railroaded, in my opinion, in a lot of their games. They're one of the few teams that almost knocked off Clemson, and since then they got every bad call you could find from a referee. That's just my opinion, but you can Google it. Only 2 teams have challenged Clemson in the last 2 years in the ACC. That would be Syracuse with a black head coach, and also, I think it was North Carolina. Actually, I thought beat them, but they said the touchdown didn't count. So I want to just make this point, and I want to finish with some things in college and NFL football. It's so important what happened today, and I'm so proud that I get to do a show with you, Big C, where we're not dumb and we don't understand what the other's talking about, even though we don't have to agree. Georgia Senate race. It turns Democratic. 90% of black women vote. And black women say they're going to vote against white obstruction. 100% of black men today cannot get an SEC coaching job in the SEC. That's just a joke. Why do so many black men praise and play in that Southeastern Conference where they're told you cannot get a job, but you can give us free labor? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, when you look at the student athletes, they're trying to get to the next level, especially when you're a top recruiter in one of the top conferences in America, Charlton.
Yeah.
The exposure is what they're looking at. They have a greater opportunity to go and extend their football career by playing in a highly visible conference versus not one that is not.
Yeah. It's all people go where they think they got to go. But I ask men, please look at what you're going to do for your jobs, because money matters. Money talks and BS walks. LA Clippers, NBA basketball, Paul George, he signed a $190 million extension. making that $226 million over 5 years. He's not even the best player on his team. You also look at another thing that's going to happen in the world of NBA basketball, in my opinion. Something's going to happen with Giannis. Giannis, he has, I think, until December 21st to sign a $228 million Supermax contract. Milwaukee's not a team that attracts mega superstars to win an NBA championship. I think Giannis is wasting his time staying over there in Milwaukee. They even tried to block the black vote, if that makes sense to you. It's all fair and love and war. But I want to go to the story. I want to cover some thoughts that happened in the NFL. And I want to make sure that we pay homage to it, Big C. NFL Kansas City Chiefs, Travis Kelce. He has a chance to make history in the 2020. Here's what he needs to do to get there. Travis Kelce is in the midst of a career year, Big C, with the Kansas City Chiefs that might even etch him into NFL history. The veteran tight end currently is on pace to enjoy career marks in receptions and receiving yards while catching nearly 75% of the balls that touchdown Patrick Mahomes throws. He decides to throw his way, Big C. It's amazing how great he's been. On top of that trajectory, Kelce is in the thick of the receiving race yards in the NFL as the regular season begins to come to a close. If he's able to finish on top, would you believe he'd be the first tight end in history to lead all pass catchers in receiving yards for a season, Big C? Your thoughts?
You know, Charlton, and that's well within his reach. I mean, this is the time of the year when Patrick Mahomes heats up. You think about it, he's on the verge of having his second 5,000-yard season in a matter of 3 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, and so all he needs is another 1,200 yards to get there. But to get there, Charlton, Travis Kelce is going to have to be a part of that. Travis Kelce has had over 100 yards receiving in his last 5 games, Charlton.
Wow.
So I see all those records within reach of Travis Kelce.
Yeah, they really are in reach. Kelce comes in this week, Big C, 1,114 yards receiving, which is good for second most in the league. Only 5 yards behind Seattle's great wide receiver, DK Metcalf. DK is a wide receiver. He's not a tight end. But, think about it. Right on the heels of maybe the best wide receiver in the NFL and the great DK touchdown Metcalf, 1,119 yards receiving. And think about that. That's essentially the reception separating the two for the league's lead. Just one catch, Big C. By looking at Kelce's remaining road games, the Chiefs tight end may have an easier path in the rest of the way to getting that crown, Big C. Your thoughts?
You know, and I have all the confidence in Travis Kelce. You think about it, he's already set a record.
Yeah.
He's the only tight end in NFL history to have 5 consecutive 1,000-yard receiving seasons. He's already accomplished that. And you know how good of friends he and Mr. Mahomes are. And if Patrick knows that he can get Kelce to that record, he's going to do it. Because by getting Kelce to that record, it will get him to that 5,000 yards.
Yeah, he's probably going to get it done, Big C. That good boy can throw. He has a 95% QBR when he's being blitzed. You can't even blitz him and get to him, Big C. Also with Kansas City Chiefs, offensive lineman Laurent Duvernay-Tardif is a trained physician who opted out of the 2020 season to help with COVID-19 patients. He was chosen as the co-winner of the Lou Marsh Trophy as Canada's Athlete of the Year. And Mr. Duvernay-Tardif, he shares the honor with soccer player Alphonso Davies, a left back for the Bayern Munich, Big C. Each received 18 votes from a panel of judges. The award has been presented by the Toronto Star since 1938. This is only the third time that 2 athletes have tied for that award. Big C, your thoughts?
You know, you think about receiving any type of prestigious award as an athlete.
Yeah.
But you opt out of the season as an athlete to go do what you went to college for, to do your calling, to serve others, Charlton, as a medical doctor. And he felt that the sacrifice of a football season was less than sacrificing human life in Canada.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of Tardif for giving up on the season and serving as a medical doctor, Charlton, because think about the number of lives that he potentially helped save versus missing a block on the football field.
Yeah, it's about finding a way to be the best service to humanity that you can be, and I'm so proud of our Supreme Court. I really am. I know I had some trepidation about it because sometimes white people with power, they've done wrong historically in this country, and people know that. Oftentimes it took marching and being beaten over the head to have people do right, even in the courts. So I'm glad they threw Donald Trump out without bloodshed, if that makes any sense to you. One of the rare times in this country that they've ruled over a white man trying to block the black vote without black people having to get beat over the head and locked up for it, Big C. In 2020 National Football League Racial and Gender Report, Big C, I'm going to give a report card, Big C's report card to the NFL on race and gender. The NFL improves racial diversity, but it lags in racial and gender equality. In some team roles, the NFL achieves, I would say, a B+ for hiring practices, increasing significantly to 85.5% to 3.2 percentage points higher than last year's at 82.3%. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I mean, this is what the NFL is constantly searching for, Charlton, trying to find a way to increase the availability of jobs for minorities in the league. And when you look across the board, Charlton, they have hired on all levels, from executives. You know, when you think about general managers and coaches, you think about officiating.
Yeah.
Not only has the NFL used an all African-American officiating group, but they have female officials also, Charlton, that are working beside these men with equality. So when we look at the NFL as well as the NBA, these are vanguards and leaders as far as professional sports in improving opportunity.
Yeah. Big C, people got to ask. You have not because you ask not. Nothing's easy. Everything worth fighting for has had to be fought for it. That's why we have the best military in the world. Not because people want America to be the land of the free, the home of the brave, but you got to fight for it, and the courts are protecting our rights to have equality in this country, even though we have the Southern Confederacy and Trump and Mitch McConnell trying to overthrow the government. It didn't happen. I'm so proud of our Supreme Court Justice, Big C. However, it's a C back to the NFL. They get the big C grade with a 73% for gender hiring practices, a 3 percentage points higher, actually a decrease from last year. So they got to improve on that, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that comes from the executive mark, Charlton. But when you look across the board, we have female coaches, full-time coaches on NFL rosters on the sideline. Who would have thought you'd have ever seen that, Charlton, and participating against each other? So these are the things. We saw a game this year where we had a female official. We had 2 female full-time assistant coaches, Charlton, on each sideline. I think that boasted well for the NFL.
Yeah.
The 3% decrease, I can live with that because there's always hiring, firing going on.
Yeah, that's true. And anybody wants something, if you don't fight for it, you're not going to get it. Every athlete that makes a team, you got to fight for it. You got to get bigger, stronger, and faster. You got to get better. Your opponent's not going to say, well, let me help you win because you want it more than I do. You got to fight for everything in this country. The NFL gets a combined grade of a B-, in my opinion, Big C, with 79.2%, a slight decrease from last year, 79.3%. Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, that's basically like getting a haircut.
Yeah. Well, I shaved my head, so what about Donald Trump? How did he get a haircut with that cat on the top of his head?
Well, that cat is dying, so it's going to run away pretty soon.
The Supreme Court told a white man, get out! How's it feel, Donald? Get out. It's all fair, 11 war. It should be noted that it was negatively affected by the change this year to include a grade for the CEO president and for a team vice president. If not for that change, there would have been an even greater increase in the 2020 for racial hiring. So the NFL is doing their part. They're not perfect, but they are at least willing to address issues that a lot of people need to have addressed. Part of the drop to 73% for gender hiring practices, I think that's attributable to the change described above. And think about it, the same is true for overall grade of 79.2. I know we're talking about stats and statistics, but at least they're making the effort to do things right. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, as the NFL goes, Charlton, and you look across the board, anybody who is getting an 80% grade in the NFL is a superstar.
Yeah.
If you're a passer and you got 80% rating, if you're a receiver and you're catching 80% of the balls in your area, and on a running back, if you're getting 80% positive carries on every carry, you're winning. So you got to put the NFL down as a winner. Yeah,
and I'm proud of it, Big C. I'm proud of doing this show with you. I think our show is like none other. I'm sure that most people, most sports shows, if you watch them today and you listen to them, you don't even know that the Supreme Court told Donald Trump you cannot throw out mostly black votes for the 2020 election, but they probably argued about who's bigger, stronger, and faster. I want to close with this, and then I really want to get your thoughts. Representative Katie Porter, she's a Democrat from Irvine, California, and a law professor, that she's a white lady. And she's one of those suburban white women that Donald Trump said that black people are going to drive down your property values. She's also very upset, and she condemned the 106 Republicans for trying to overthrow the United States elections. It's a joke. And she said that Senator Mitch McConnell, this is a white woman, Senator Mitch McConnell is the biggest recipient of corporate donations trying to prevent American workers and families from getting financial help and food and even protection from COVID-19. That's a white woman criticizing these old white men. And so I really appreciate when people start lamenting the same things that black Americans have talked about for 400 years, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, before Katie Porter became an elected official, she was an assistant to Kamala Harris' office, at the Attorney General's office in California, Charleston. So that's where she cut her teeth at. And everybody knows what these old white men in the Senate are doing, Charleston. They're sitting there lining their own pockets. They don't give a damn about the American public. And all of those joke, senators who signed on to that petition knew it was a losing cause.
Yeah.
But because they were young in politics, they felt that Donald Trump still had his thumb on top of them, and they did it for prosperity with him, not caring about the American public.
Not caring about the public. But we do, and I do appreciate everybody that reads. Don't just say I want to be a sports jock or a dumb jock. We got to read. I really appreciate when people read. Big C, back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young man, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
You know, Charleston, there's a lot of sports teams that use a cat as their landmark and their emblem.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump got to realize all that stuff that's thinking around him. All he got to do is look down at that leash that he's dragging, and that dead cat that he's dragging around. He's got to let it go. Take his butt back down to Florida, whether he wants to be a Jaguar or whatever he wants to be down there. But that dead cat is done, just like his butt is. I'm looking forward to a great weekend of college and NFL football.
Oh, man.
The NBA preseason kicks off tonight.
Yeah.
But I want everybody to stay safe and healthy. And once again, I want to thank our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, our doctors, our first responders. Hopefully by Monday, they will have allowed the COVID-19 vaccine to be released.
Amen to that. And I want to say from Big C Sports to the Supreme Court, thank you for having character. You can have character too every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide. When you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America, and Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you, on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.